Good evening, sir. Sir, can you switch on your camera? Good evening, sir. Sir, can you switch on your camera? Good evening, everybody. I am Dr. Vishal Verma. I am the advisor for Inspiring Minds. And as we have thought that we will be having a training session, awareness session on POSH. So we have got Ajay Agrawal, sir, who is here for everyone. Okay, so we will be having a awareness session on POS. Let me brief you about Mr. Ajay Agarwal. Mr. Ajay Agarwal happens to be the director of Rapid Learning System, an organization that is involved into lots of training programs, and is associated also as an POSH consultant, as a POSH advisor for many organizations. He is one of the renowned coach and trainer in POSH, and as you all aware that government has now make it mandatory for every people to have a POSH committee, internal complaint committee. So I have asked Ajay sir to have a session on that awareness session, so that everyone around India can be aware of the what is happening in the POSH, what are the different challenges that we face. So Ajay sir, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Vishal. Just give me a minute. Let me put my mobile onto the silent mode so that
Yes, sure.
do not cause unnecessary. Good afternoon, everybody. Will I be able to look at the participants or not under this particular mode
Sir,
of?
they will be joining through LinkedIn and Facebook Live. Okay. So in case if anyone having any
So, how
questions, they
many
will ask.
participants are there now?
Yeah,
How many
as if
participants are
now
there now?
we have been informed that there will be around 80 participants on LinkedIn and around 150 participants on Facebook. Okay. So if there is any question, they will post it on LinkedIn and Facebook, and we will update you accordingly and ask the questions. Take the questions towards the end.
All right, very good. Thank you very much, Vishal sir, for having invited me. Uh, Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We will be discussing on the salient features of a particular act, which in India is known as the POSH Act. Um, and This act was introduced in the year 2013. And We are not going to take in any PPT. I would request Vishal sir to take in questions as and when it comes, because taking questions at the end of the program might have too much of anxiety in the mind of the participant who wishes to who would be happy to know the answer immediately so that he can concentrate better if the facility so provides.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Now,
It will be done. It will be
yeah,
done.
so
Not an issue.
I would recommend that, then it will be pretty interactive. um, so do I have your permission to start?
Yes, sir. Please, sir. Over to you, sir.
All right. So let us first understand, you see, what I'm basically going to cover are few important things, which is number one, as we are going to study the act, everyone would be probably looking forward to कि भाई ये act है क्या, what is this act, can I speak bilingual, is Hindi English Bengali or Hindi and English both okay?
Sir, we have participants from South India too. So it would
All
be
right,
better if you can continue in English, sir.
all right, we'll continue in English. So this is a particular act, so we will cover the genesis of the act. These are the six main headings under which the program will get covered. Number one is the genesis, which basically will state as to why the act came into existence at all. What was the need for the act? Because unless there is any necessity, they say that necessity is the mother of invention. Already, we in our country are loaded with so many acts, legislations all around, and then to bring in one more act, and that too as late as in the year 2013, might raise some kind of question marks. So, we will talk about the genesis of the act, in which we will cover why the act was there, does it have a constitutional mandate, and how did the act actually, how did what all happened such that it all culminated into becoming an act which now has legislative powers and is enforced by the judiciary as well as the executive in our country. Post that, if we would see in the acronym which is POSH, the alphabet P stands for three different words. I would suggest that if you wish to take down, you may take down some notes which are very important. This is only my request and advice. Rest as per your convenience. P does not only stand for prevention. The alphabet P stands for three things. Number one is prevention, number two is prohibition, and the number three is redressal. So when I do a webinar or when I do classroom trainings, I say that the P is a PPR, which is prevention, prohibition, and redressal. O stands for off, which is grammatical. S stands for sexual, which is an adjective. And H stands for harassment, which is a noun. So the second section will cover what actually is harassment. Is harassment agony? Is harassment pain? Is harassment cruelty? And if it were so, then why did the act use the word harassment? Why not cruelty, cruelty, sexual agony, sexual unease, and so on and so forth? So the word harassment has a particular meaning. Even generally, the word harassment has a different meaning. So it will be very important for us to understand the meaning of the word harassment, and in particular sexual harassment, because the law deals with sexual harassment. Now, harassment could be of many types. It could be emotional harassment, when somebody known to you doesn't reply to your WhatsApp messages, in spite of the fact that you've seen that there are acknowledgement ticks. You feel a little anxiety ridden, and that causes or sets in a tremendous amount of anxiety, which may lead to what is known as emotional harassment. Then we have kind of physical harassment. We have third degree treatment provided here and there. So there are emotional harassments, there are physical harassments. So what is so special about sexual harassment? And if it is a law, then it has to be defined per se, because what constitutes a sexual harassment, we need to understand. And if there are any ICC members here, which is now known as the alphabets ICC, stood for Internal Complaints Committee. Now, of course, one C is dropped, and it is only internal committee. I'll explain that why. So, if there are any members who are members to the IC, then it will become very important for them to understand what actually is sexual harassment, because a lot of complaints will come to them, and they cannot ab initio refuse to accept a complaint letter. Whatever be the complaint, the IC is mandated to receive the complaint letter and then go through the content, and then come to a conclusion whether at all it is a case of sexual harassment or not. If it is a case of sexual harassment, then they will take up the inquiry proceedings and so on and so forth. And but supposing they come to the conclusion that within the purview of the act, it doesn't at all become a case of sexual harassment, then they could possibly advise the complainant accordingly, and the matter should rest there. So we will see what actually, as per the act, is a sexual harassment, and then we will see what are the various forms in which sexual harassment is exercised. And once we know that, we could also look in some at some examples to clarify the process, or there would be some interactive sessions on that. So from there on, we will like to know this is an act, the genesis have been understood, sexual harassment is understood, the forms of sexual harassment have been understood. So we now understand what is sexual harassment. Now the point is that, all right, if there is a case of sexual harassment, I mean, where does the aggrieved women go? Who are the monitoring agencies? Who are the preventive agencies? Who are the agencies, or which are the agencies which will enforce the law in a time bound manner, so and so forth. So we'll look into that. We'll delve into the provisions of the act. Then we will look at, all right, so these are the preventive authorities, like uh, in where the act is applicable. In some cases, the employer will be the authority. In some cases, the district magistrates nominated nodal officer of that particular district and his nominees in the form of talukdars down the level at the village level would be the preventing authorities, and so on and so forth. Having understood that, we will then go on to what is known as the redress mechanism. The complaint has been filed. In spite of all the preventive measures, sexual harassment could not be stopped. The IC found that yes, it is a case of sexual harassment. Now, what further? So we come to the fourth section, which is the redressal, which is how can we, what all can we do to meet the ends of justice to that aggrieved women, and that too in a time bound manner. Because it is said that justice delayed is justice denied. And that was, as I will explain to you a little later, probably one of the reasons as to why we had to bring in this act. So we will look at the redressal mechanism, and in that redressal mechanism, we will see that who can complain, how can the complaint be raised during the period of during the period of investigation. Are there some interim relief measures which are allowed to the complainant? Is cross examination allowed? What are the responsibilities of the employer? What are the responsibilities of the IC? To whom does the IC submit its recommendation post inquiry? And whatever be the recommendations of the IC, so and so forth. Uh, by when are they implemented? Who monitors them? What happens if they are not implemented? What are the penal provisions? So this is what I intend to go, and then as Dr. Vishal had requested me to also cover a little bit on the SHE, which is SH, capital S, capital H, stands for sexual harassment. Then there is a lowercase e, which stands for electronic. So it is sexual harassment e-box. So this is the latest initiative, a digital initiative of the government of India. And as late as I think July 2025, the Supreme Court has mandated, written to all the chief secretaries to float she boxes on their states' websites. So we'll cover that also. And there is an amendment. I would say that a private member's amendment bill which was brought in the year 2022, and then another amendment bill which was brought in the year 2024. They, of course, were looking for some changes, but they still are have not been converted. They have still not. I mean, I saw the details. They was tabled, but no discussion has taken place, and therefore they have not been converted into law. Though we will cover the provision and what implications does it have. I mean, in the spirit of exercising the law, what implications these changes would have on the employers, and what should proactive employers do on themselves, on and proactively, so that they can build in enough amount of trust, credibility in the minds of our sisters and women employees, so that they can come to the workplace with a complete sense of safety, security, and dignity. So, Vishal sir, could we just find out from our friends who are participating, would that be the right order? And are they, or would they be comfortable with that?
So we will take this discussion with them because I haven't seen any questions right now. So whatever the discussions is that whatever the plan we have decided earlier, we said move ahead with that, and then we will take up the questions.
All right, but in case there is anyone who is on chat or who sends you a question, please don't hesitate to interrupt me,
No,
because
no,
that
sir.
will take
That will be
yeah,
perfect.
because
At the
that
same time, it will be conveyed to you, sir,
yeah, because
and
that will
you can
make
also
the
you
yeah.
can also
Please
see.
continue.
Yes, yes, sure.
Okay, so let us first start about the genesis. I think we are all aware about the constitutional provisions of Part 3 of our Constitution, which talks about our fundamental rights. Now, we have all kinds of rights, but fundamental rights are, as the word says, something which are very, very, very important to us as living beings, and which are to be seen with the rigor that the constitutional fathers wanted the judiciary to look into it. Say, for instance, we have Article 14, we have Article 19, we have whole lots of articles beginning from Article 14 down to the writ constitutions, which goes up to Article 32, wherein there are, since in India, we have to go step by step in a cascading way, which means we cannot file in any suit or we cannot reach the Supreme Court directly ordinarily. But if your fundamental right is violated, then there are certain writs which are provided either in Section 30 or 32, where we can reach the Supreme Court on a very urgent manner and request for some kind of grievance redressal. So these are the rights. Article 14 talks about right to equality, which means all of us are born equal. And born equal means we are born with equal rights. And all of us have equal right of harmony, fostering, flourishing, choosing our right to work, choosing our profession, living a dignified life, any profession which is not illegal is guaranteed by the constitution under the fundamental right to work. So then right to life, I mean, we all have a right to live peacefully, exist peacefully, as long as we are not causing any disturbance to anybody. So this is the constitutional mandate which provides for equality of gender, which means the males and the females, right? There is a difference between sex and gender. Sex is a biological concept. However, gender is something that is given to us by the society. Like if we were to think in terms of doctors a couple of years ago, normally, a man would probably come to our mind. If we were to look in terms of a nurse, probably a women would have come to our mind. Probably not so now, because we are moving towards a more gender neutral, and this on account of gender sensitization and so forth. Uh, so gender gender uh, bias should be avoided. And if you will even look at the demography today in India, and say about 10 years back, in industries, in government organizations, in the workforce, if you will look at the ratio of man to women, you would find that there were more of men. Could be many reasons. Could be because of social reasons. Could be because of the women themselves were not forthcoming. Could be because there were certain cultural issues. Could be because there was too much of a paternal society, patriarchal society, whatever be it. But now the numbers have risen, and they have risen for good. And now we are moving towards what is known as a, employers trying to become an equal opportunity employer, which means there should be no bias as long as the person is competent, right, irrespective of what sex he or she belongs to. So this is the constitutional mandate. All of us are aware that in the past, though the mandate was there, that was more or less in the statute, but the practice portion could have been improved. However, more and more organizations are taking note of it, and the female population in the organizations are increasing day by day. Good news so far. We wish someday we will have equal opportunity. Now that is one thing. This is binding on the government. The government is duty bound by the constitutional framers that they must provide for right to equality, right to work, right to dignity, right to safety, right to security of all, irrespective of man or women. This is number one. Secondly, we all know, I mean, it's a known fact that women were in the, say, about 30, 40 years back, or maybe about 20 years back, right? They were not very eager, or the society per se uh, did not highly promote, or the organizations did not look forward to, women employment. I know of few organizations, even about 10 years back, I mean, organizations who were doing night shift operations, like the various thermal power producers, the various manufacturing units in our country, the various process plants in our country, which have to run for 24 hours, and they have three shifts. Normally, even if they were employing women, they would somehow make sure that either the women force are in the maintenance or in the general shift, but would desperately avoid their going into night shifts for fear of not being able to provide them with adequate security and safety measures.
Sir, we have a question from
Yes.
one of the LinkedIn user. She asks that what action can be taken if a company is resistant to implementing the POSH policy despite increasing number of female employees and constantly blocks effort to introduce it.
See, the point is very good question. Let me congratulate you for asking a brilliant question. Let us take it step by step, right? So, what if the company, if I've understood you correctly, what if the company does not go by the provisions of the POSH Act? Number one, the applicability of the POSH Act is pan India. Now, it is whose responsibility to make sure that the provisions of the Act are implied with. The law says that there is what is known as technically a workplace. It says prevention, prohibition, redressal of sexual harassment of working women at workplaces. So let us understand the coverage. prevention, prohibition, redressal, of whom? Of working women. So the aggrieved women must be working. Must be working would mean that there has to be an employer employee relationship with them. Just about 3 months back, there was a decision of the Supreme Court wherein a lady member of the Bar Council of Delhi, probably, she filed in a sexual harassment case, right, against an advocate, and and the Supreme Court had to reason out that the Bar Council is not an employer. It doesn't employ either the advocates or otherwise. Therefore, between the lady and the respondent advocate, there is no employer-employee relationship. Hence, the provisions of the Sexual Harassment Act would not attract. So there has to be a working women, number one, where at the workplace. So who is an aggrieved women is defined very, very, very precisely in the act. I will cover that. Then what is a workplace? I will also cover that. But coming first to your question, if the employer does not obey or does not comply with the provisions of the act says that on the first offense, right, there would be a penalty of 50,000. On the second offense, the penalty will be doubled to a lakh of rupees. On the third offense, the penalty will be doubled from a lakh of rupees to 2 lakhs, and the trade license could be cancelled. So, in my own humble view, the financial impact of 50,000, 1 lakh, 2 lakhs, to my mind, is very little. Maybe in the revision, we may see stronger penalties in terms of financial outgoes. However, the fact that the trade license may get cancelled if the third offense is found and continued, that is number one, something which can be used as a deterrent, forcing the organizations to comply with. Secondly, in just about, I think, a year back, all the corporations who are either private sector companies or public sector companies, they have to publish what is known as an annual report mandatorily under the provisions of the Companies Act. I don't remember the exact section, but only about 3-4 months back, they have mandated it that in the Companies Act, under the managing director's report, they will have to mention how many cases of sexual harassment took place in that particular financial year, how many were uh, how many were disposed of within the stipulated time, how many could not be disposed of within the stipulated period of time, and the reasons thereof, how many trainings were complied with, because it is the duty of the employer also to provide awareness sessions to all the employees. I'll cover who all are the employees, including contract workers, as well as two times biannual building training competencies or building capacity building, they say in the act, capacity building and competencies of the IC members. Since they are all from the company, they are no lawyers themselves. So how do they interrogate? How do they write the minutes? How do they report? How do they make the recommendation, and so on and so forth? Now, all these were not there prior to, I think, 2024, or I think it is only July 2025. But now they have included all these to be mentioned in the annual report. In the earlier years, if you said, yes, we were POSH compliant, that would be enough. So, three types of penalties: 50,000 first offense, a lakh on the second offense, 2 lakhs on the third offense, and the trade license being cancelled. But so far, not even a single case has happened where the trade license has been cancelled. I would say within my own limited experience and so forth, Even the Supreme Court has stated that the enforcement needs to be innovated, and the Supreme Court has issued drastic measures, but then the provisions are there. Does this answer your question, sir?
Yes, sir. I think it has answered all the points. Still, if there is any queries, the LinkedIn user will get back to me, and accordingly, I will update you, sir.
All right, very good, very good. Now, see this. um so once again, let's come to prevention. Prevention means all that is required to be done to stop these things from happening. The very fact that we are having this session, and the people who are attending, participants who are attending, friends who are attending, would know that what are the consequences, what are the damages, why should we not get into these things, what harm can it do to the society, what kind of a trauma can it bring to a woman, what kind of self harm can it do to a man himself who is probably prosecuted, or who is found to be guilty by the IC. If we know all these, probably they can act as a deterrent as to why should we go about indulging in these activities. So there are a lot of awareness campaigns which are being run by the government. This particular act is monitored by the Ministry of Women and Child Development. So a lot of workshops keep on taking place. So these are the preventive measures. You will see posters all around, even in workplaces, around the factory premises. There are large size for posters, even 10 feet by 8 feet, where they say that there is going to be no sexual harassment, or zero tolerance to sexual harassment, and so on and so forth. So these awareness campaigns, bringing about more and more education to the people, taking it to the grassroots level, because a lot of India, a large part of our country still exists in semi-urban and rural areas. So the government is continuously making the efforts, and organizations like Dr. Vishal Verma's Inspiring Minds and others, many other NGOs also, we all keep on doing these kind of awareness sessions. Then comes prohibition.
Sir, we
Now,
have a question here
yeah.
by one of the LinkedIn user. The question is that is there any mandate for the ICC to publish a report on cost cases on the financial year for the knowledge of all employees to the workplace?
If I've understood it, is the question around the fact that whatever is the IC report, does it have to be made public? Is
Yes,
that
sir.
the question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. See, the point is that the IC is under a very strong confidentiality clause. Because uh, firstly, the confidentiality clause is so that more and more women come and at least register their complaint, because for fear of social stigma, so and so forth, a lot of women, even statistics say that 70% of cases still in our country go unreported, except in very major towns, major cities or metros. So if we make these things public, uh, the social architecture is such that women might hesitate, number one. So there is a confidentiality clause. Even during the inquiry process, the name of the complainant, the name of the respondent uh, has to be within the IC members themselves. And by chance, it is joint accountability. If by chance there is any leakage of information, irrespective of the fact that who has done it, it doesn't bother who has done it, all members of the IC will individually be fined with an amount of rupees 5,000 for the leakage, number one. Secondly, so once the recommendations are made, there is no question of making it public at all, because we don't want to humiliate either the respondent nor the complainant. Our purpose is to restore safety and security. We are not doing any witch hunting, nor are we trying to put the blame game. So the recommendation the IC gives it to the employer, who is the, say, in a manufacturing company, it will be the unit head. So it will go from an IC in a sealed cover to the employer, and a copy of it will go to the district magistrate. I'll tell you why to the district magistrate. The employer is then duty bound to implement implement in block letters without any fuss around, implement the recommendations of the IC in totality within a period of 60 days from the date of submission of the IC report to him or her. And it is the duty of the district magistrate to monitor whether such compliance has taken place, because the implementation compliance has to be filed by the employer to the district magistrate's office also. So the district magistrate office also monitors. So on the 61st day, if they find that in the Excel sheet there's no compliance which is appearing, probably they would issue a reminder or alert the employer that such and such thing is pending, and therefore, so there is no case of making the uh, report, the findings, public. Is that right?
So further to that question, there is one more question by the same LinkedIn user. It says that as per the latest update in POSH Act, is it a mandatory compliance factor for organizations to maintain employee declaration against all POSH training provided as awareness session within the organization?
Yes, I would say that it is very important for all organizations to maintain registers of what kind of an awareness program was done. Get these awareness sessions only handled by certified post trainers. Maintain a record so that if there are checks, right, they can subject themselves to scrutiny and satisfy the investigating officer that yes, we are going ahead with the awareness program, so and so forth. Maintenance of attendance register, even frequently uh, having awareness sessions and recap sessions, so and so forth, are good things that an organization can probably introduce into their culture. But attendance is a must, because uh, you never know, you may have to satisfy the investigating agency that people know of, are aware of the basics. I mean, awareness does not mean that he has to be lawyer. But suppose somebody from the Ministry of Welfare, Women Development, Women and Child Development comes in and walks in around your factory premises and say, maybe, randomly chooses about 5 to 10 people and ask simple questions like, have you heard of quid pro quo? Do you know what is, have you heard of Vishaka guidelines? Have you heard of mm, uh, aggrieved women? Um, do you know what is one of the penalties which can be given to a complaint, to a respondent? And if possibly these kind of, or you have you heard of an IC? Does your company has an IC? And if in all this they come with a blank look, which means no awareness sessions have at all taken place. And among, there are 13 duties of the employer under section 13 or 9, I don't exactly remember, but all those 13 duties the employer has to fulfill, and one of the duties is causing these awareness programs. And if he doesn't, if the employer does not do it, then again he is liable to penal action. So it is not any recent amendment. It is right from the beginning of the act. Recent amendment is more tight in the sense that now the Supreme Court is very strict on that. It has really tried to nail down the government on its very meager kind of an observance, and uh, have asked it to hit the nail straight. So the enforcement machinery is going to strike now. Therefore, a lot of organizations suomoto, or probably driven by the fact that, because it tarnishes the image. Tomorrow, supposing if in a newspaper we get an article that such and such company found violating the provisions of the Posh Act, even after, now it is 27, the Posh Act came in the year 2013, even after 14 years of the enactment of the Posh Act, what is going to happen to your share prices? What is the kind of organization culture? What will be the prestige of the organization? How will you draw good talent? So all these things have to be taken in. If a law is there, the law is to be abided by law abiding citizens. Why do we need a machinery always to be after us, such that even a law which is so genuine and so natural, and not very time consuming, neither very costly either. I mean, we never say that you have training done by POSH certified. You develop your own internal trainers. You have POSH certified trainers come to your company. You have about 20, 30 people attend their programs for 3, 4 days, learn the nuances, get get certification, and then those people can offer training and awareness sessions. They, of course, cannot do the training sessions for the ICC, because for the IC there are very specialized trainers which are required. But awareness sessions can be carried out by certified post trainers who are certified by uh, empaneled post trainers with the government of India. Is that right, Mr. Gupta?
Yes, sir. Just to answer one question that was put earlier, there is a regulations. I think in that all the accounting financial update that comes after the every quarter by most of the organization, they have to declare the number of cases that was there, uh, and not the name of the person, but the number of cases
Yeah,
that is
that is
there.
only come in recently. The quarterly mandate is only about 3, 4 months back. That
Yeah,
is
earlier
that
it
is
was
to
the annual report.
ना नहीं, एनुअल रिपोर्ट तो साल में एक बार ही होगी ना. दैट्स व्हाई इट इज नोन एज एन एनुअल रिपोर्ट. तो
No, sir. I am
previously
talking
it was
about
annual report. Now they have to file this, at least this portion of the quarterly with the district magistrate, so that continuous
I'm,
monitoring can take place.
sir. I am, if I correctly remember, and as I have learned from you, that in the annual report, that the financial report that comes for every organization, they have to declare, and also on the website they have to declare the number of cases.
Yeah, absolutely right. Now they have to file this quarterly with the nodal officer, so that there is more tightening of the noose, so that we can monitor. See, if an organization is asked to file a report quarterly, which means it will have to preserve records and attendance sheets, etc. Otherwise, if the report is filed and there is no documents to support what they are filing, then how will previously I've seen in many organizations, right? There are not much records on POSH uh, Act or the awareness sessions or compliance of the POSH Act. It was merely done by a single line. We have complied with the provisions of the POSH Act, and that was sufficient. And the government has taken a very strong note of it. So no more kidding. Business is business. We mean business, and we would definitely make sure that is why the Ministry of Corporate Affairs have brought in these changes. Previously, we were not even reporting the number of trainings conducted, only the number of cases, and cases beyond 90 days. Now you have to report the number of trainings which you have conducted, how many people you have covered.
So we have one more question. That's a situational based question. So please confirm the following situation can be treated as a harassment. One of the officer trying to reach out his manager, the regional manager, over the call to discuss one of the issue he is facing with the customer in the field. Unfortunately, this regional manager is in review meeting when this business head hit the entire day. Sales officer did not got any response and call during the day, and he got disappointed. Also lead to poor performance as sales officer. Kindly explain.
No, see, this is a very brilliant question. Let us understand, and it gives us a reason to explain what, as per the act, actually is sexual harassment, and whether this particular thing which you said, if I've understood it correctly, there is a person who wants to meet his regional manager, probably regarding some business, etc., etc. The regional manager is busy, and the officer concerned has been waiting throughout the day, and even after all his or her efforts, he or she has not been able to meet him on that day, as a result of which maybe the targets, etc., are not met, something like that. Am I correct, Dr. Gupta?
Yes, sir. But I think the question that I understand, based on this LinkedIn user that has given asked this question, okay, because we are not able to see the name here. Okay, so that question says about that the word is harassment, not sexual harassment.
No,
By default,
see,
it will not come under the
all right.
concept of.
I think let me now come to the definition of what is sexual harassment as per the provisions of the act. See, there are five kind of behaviors that the act says will constitute what is sexual harassment. All right. So these five things. So let us imagine that these five things are, say, A, comma B, comma C, comma D plus comma E, and let's write A plus B plus C plus D plus E in a bracket, and outside the bracket let's write U, right, which means that these acts could be individual, or these acts could be in combo. A with B, A with C, A with D, any combo, A, B, C, or whatever. These are five acts. They can be singularly or in association with each other. But outside all these acts, there is an adjective which is unwelcome. The behavior must be unwelcome. Let me explain this. Say the first thing is, it says, is physical. Any unwelcome, say any unwelcome physical touch or physical advances, right? Any unwelcome. So why did we have to write unwelcome? Say there are two friends, they are friends, there is a boy and a girl, they are friends, and they are moving in a park hand to hand, right, hand in hand. So there is a physical touch, but it is welcome, so it is not going to come to harassment. Harassment is when you are doing something against the wish of the person, when that person has at least once warned you not to do that, and made it absolutely clear that she is not liking that particular behavior, and that she is very, very, very uncomfortable with that. Even after her making the person know this, the person continues on with his activity, then it will constitute harassment. And in order to become sexual harassment, number one, it has to be unwelcome physical touch. Say we are traveling in a bus, right? And there's too much of too many people there, and suddenly the driver applies the brake, and I non-intentionally, touch a woman. Now I'm supposed to say sorry, and it is not intentional. So if I say sorry, right, then the matter ends there. But there you would find that sometimes in buses, etc., there's a lot of eve teasing. There is purposefully body touching, right, physical advances, etc. And the female has already made it clear to the person that, look, I don't like it. And still he continues it. then that would result to harassment. Whether the bus will be a workplace or not, we will see that later. So number one is unwelcome physical touch or physical advances. Now, why physical advances? There was a case, Apparel Export Promotion Council of India, wherein the chairman of the company called in his secretary to the hotel on the pretext of giving some dictation, and both of them sat on a sofa, and normally the sofa will have their handrests, and then this person slowly and slowly started moving near the secretary, and the secretary had no place to go. She couldn't have jumped up from the sofa handle. So although there was no touch, but she was feeling uncomfortable. As he was progressing towards her, she was feeling uncomfortable. And therefore, this case went to the Supreme Court. And there the person took the pretext कि सर कोई physical touch तो हुआ नहीं. Then the Supreme Court, I will again come and explain to you that the Supreme Court has absolutely made it clear that it is not your intent, but the impact on the lady that they are going to consider while considering whether it is a case of sexual harassment or not. And therefore, it says any physical touch or physical advances. That is number one. Number two is any demand. Please mind my words. Any demand or request. It could be by way of a demand, or it could be by way of a request for a sexual favor in return of something. Say the boss and the secretary. The boss says, why don't we go out for coffee tonight? I mean, after the office, we can go for a coffee. And then maybe, you can come home. And then tomorrow you can come to the office straight away from my home. We can come into the office together in the morning, having had breakfast at my home. Why don't you consider this, please? Now it is a request. And then he adds as a sequel to it, and as you would understand that the promotion list is, will be released tomorrow. And he is the person who is responsible for the promotion. So here he is making a request. For what? For not an ordinary favor, for a sexual favor. The girl understands it. Why does he want him to go at night to his house? And then, obliquely he is mentioning that you can have breakfast next day morning and then we can come to the office together. I mean, the girl is wise enough to understand the signals. So it could be either a request or a demand. He can say, right, if you don't come, you know what the consequences are going to be. Right? Tomorrow the promotion list is going to be there. You will be surprised to find that your name won't appear there. So it could be a demand or a request for a sexual favor. So if anything like this also happens, this will come within the purview of sexual harassment. The number three is any lewd remark. Lewd is any inappropriate remark. We all live in a society. We are all citizens, and there is a social decorum by which the entire society moves. You have no business to call any lady with whom you have no acquaintance, or even if you have acquaintance, whether she likes it or whether if she doesn't like it, you call her a pretty doll. You just compliment. A newcomer walks into your office and you don't know her, and you walk up to her and you say, oh, you look gorgeous in this yellow dress. I mean, is it? And she says, look, I don't really like this. This is not a compliment that I really would look forward to. And then he says, oh no, but why don't you try a pink dress instead tomorrow, etc. He goes on with that. Now this is, there was a case in the Bombay High Court where somebody called a girl a pretty doll and he was taken to task. It's none of your business. The workplace is not a rangshala that you can go and play with the dignity, respect, and safety and security of the women workforce. You come there for work, right? Yes, if the women wants to be friends with you, we have we have nothing to. But then your disciplinary rules will apply. I mean, we would like both of you to have coffee in the canteen, but I'm sure none of the organizations would allow for kissing to take place, even if it is welcome between the boyfriend and the girlfriend, to be taken in a office canteen in public. That would come that may not come within the purview of the sexual harassment, because the girl will say that I have given consent to it, but you will fall within the domain of the office etiquettes and so on and so forth. So number three is a lewd remark. I have two more, Dr. Gupta. Number four is showing pornography. The girl is not interested in seeing all these nude pictures, etc., etc., and you insist. Like, I don't know, but probably that was because uh, there were a lot of male and female workers working together at the call centers, so and so forth, with access to their private email IDs and web and all that. Probably that's because the personal access, etc., have been now truncated. Because suddenly, while doing some kind of a data entry, probably I'm not sure. I mean, I'm just speculating. I wish I'm wrong. You suddenly go to a site which is, and the girl sitting next to you unintentionally. I mean, if she is just 1 feet away from you, you can't stop her gaze, from going from left to right. She watches that picture and she tells you, look here, I see that this picture is very objectionable. Please don't go through these kinds of pictures in future when I'm seated around. And he doesn't listen and he continues. On the contrary, he says, look, how lovely, what kind of lovely pictures they are, aren't they? Now, what does the girl do? So that the law says will fall within the purview of sexual harassment. And then there is a number five clause, which I, in my own language, call it the Mother Ganga clause. In India, I call it the Ganga Maya clause. If supposing he says any other, if supposing by chance we have forgotten to cover anything, any other unwelcome, any other, the cream is unwelcome, any other unwelcome verbal or non-verbal or gesture intending to be sexual in nature. And who will decide that whether it is sexual in nature or not? That is also given by the Supreme Court. The boy may say, no, no, it was not my intention, sir. मैं तो ये सोच के नहीं किया. Right? I always look at her as my sister. When something goes wrong, we all become absolutely saintly. But it's not, there's no machine till now. Maybe I don't know what the AI will do, whether I can figure out what is your intention. And therefore, the Supreme Court has said very clearly, it is intent, it is impact and not intent, that what we will decide and discuss when we are going to decide upon whether it is a case of sexual harassment. So if by you had no intention, all right, we agree to the fact that you had no intention. मान लेते हैं कि तुम्हारा कोई intention नहीं था. But if the girl has felt uncomfortable and it has non-verbally, it has come to her face or in her physique, or she is becoming little traumatic, or she's uncomfortable, if there is any kind of impact and she says, that is going to be the final evidence and nothing more. So I think the case that you reported, right, does not fall within any of these categories, my friend. Therefore, most humbly, I would submit that this would not be a case of sexual harassment. And I would say that if you visit the website of the Ministry of Women and Child Development, you will come across a handbook like this. Right? This is on their net, and this is only 58 pages. It is freely available. It is in English. However, they had said that they would publish it in all local languages. You'd see that it is published in the year 2015, and there they have given at least about 70, 80 cases, examples or what would cause sexual harassment, what would not cause sexual harassment. And what would not cause sexual harassment, in those cases, they have said that if a manager is doing something in the normal exercise of his managerial powers, now supposing somebody is not performing very well, supposing somebody is missing deadlines, as a result of which she is receiving scolding, as a result of which the manager asks her to overstay and complete the job, etc., etc. So in the discharge of the management functions per se, right? Now, if the women says that this is a case of sexual harassment, they have very clearly said that that would not be a case of sexual harassment. Dr. Gupta,
We have a questions very close to this by one of the LinkedIn user. It says, "What about sexual remarks or making other person uncomfortable with your stare?"
with your stare,
Yeah.
I mean, say sexual remark, any lewd remark, उसमें नीचे बोला है ना नीचे, any other verbal or non-verbal behavior or any gesture. The stare is a gesture. If she is becoming uncomfortable, what business you have to lewdly stare at her? So that the very word gesture included in that fifth line of that particular section will cover this. However, it
Uh,
will be very difficult to prove because there are no witnesses to it and you don't have a CCTV camera installed everywhere. But it has to be done by circumstantial evidence. Supposing he is staring, then he is passing on WhatsApp messages, you know, to which she has replied in no. Then again he is pestering with messages. So these days, even cyber crimes are taken as matter of evidence and admitted as a record. So it will, supposing three of her friends, they stand as witnesses and say, no, sir, every morning the same thing is happening. He comes and he stares at her lucidly, vividly, and, gaspingly looking forward to and making very ugly gestures. We know what kind of gestures would constitute what mean. There are, some specific gestures which have specific meaning in specific context. So those things are not allowed, and therefore the word gesture. Otherwise, why would they say verbal, non-verbal, or मौखिक, अमौखिक, मौखिक, अमौखिक, शाब्दिक या सांकेतिक? That is the Hindi translation of it. Sanketik. So even if you make a gesture which can be decoded, आप बोले मेरे तो पाम में खुजली चल रही थी, जब वो आती है तभी आपको खुजली क्यों चलती है? And why at regularly on the same spot? I know of a case which I handled. At one of the entrances of the bank, there were three boys who would stand by, and whenever this lady would walk in, they would start singing, Hindi songs with double meaning, and this lady would feel very uncomfortable. And this lady told them once that please don't do this. And she said, नहीं हम लोग आपको देख के थोड़ी गाते हैं, हम लोग तो गाते रहते हैं, आप यहाँ से निकल जाती हैं, तो जब मैं आती हूँ तभी आपको ये गाने याद आते हैं क्या? So when it became very repetitive, she complained it to the IC, and the IC took action against the person. This lady, another case I handled was, there is a lady who is coming on a motorbike. All right, and the driver is a male. Now he could be her friend, he could be her husband, he could be her brother, he could be anybody. It's none of our business. And these boys who are standing, at a distance, she had to climb the stairs, just like, if you look at the Reserve Bank of India in Kolkata, you have to climb the stairs, then you have to enter. So after climbing the stairs, as she would enter the premises, one of the boys would say, अरे हमको भी कभी मौका दीजिए आपको स्कूटर में लेके आने का, हम इतने बुरे तो नहीं हैं. That of course, is getting onto the modesty of the women. So she once the women has to tell the person, please don't do it. I don't like it, because then only the thing will become unwelcome.
So there is a very good question given by a LinkedIn user, and I think this question need to be explained in a very proper manner. The question is that what can be done when a company has not implemented POSH, okay, and a female employee who reports harassment to HR is laid off, okay, while
Yeah,
HR is
that is very
pressurized.
simple. It is
Yeah,
very
sir,
simple.
let me complete the question, sir. While HR is pressurized by senior leadership not to take any action. Okay, I
Is the
think
question
both
complete?
the employee as well as the HR, because as since we cannot access the name of the LinkedIn user here. Okay, but I assume by this question that both the female employee and the HR happens to be a lady person.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. See, let me tell you, Mr. Gupta, Dr. Gupta, that, right, number one, right, there is not a question of IC. Firstly, if the IC, if the employer has not, if the employer does not have an IC, correct or not? In this case, there is no IC, so the
No,
lady
sir.
cannot file. Now, even if the the HR is not receiving the complaint, and you are saying the HR makes the lady resign, am I
No,
right?
no, 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 sir. The question is that the lady, there is no posh IC or posture in policy in the company. Okay,
Right,
the lady has reached out to HR. HR has noted the complaint and escalated it to the management. Now,
right.
the management is asking HR not to take the complaint. So,
Very
what
good,
should be done?
very good, very good. Right. Number one, first violation: all companies must have their posh policies. So if you have the guts, and your company doesn't have a posh policy, just write to the district magistrate of that district, or enter it into the she box. Put your company's detail, etc., etc. That is why the she box has been made, so that you don't have to worry about anything. She box is not only for raising complaints. Right? Just write your, even if you don't write your name, you say an employee from such and such company, right? We wish to bring to your knowledge that there is no posh policy in our company. Anonymous, they will take in, because posh policy, making of a posh policy and publishing a posh policy and getting an employee to sign on the provisions of the posh policy as having read the sections of the posh policy of the company is a mandatory provision prior to the prior to offering an appointment. Dr. Gupta, could you be visible? Can you
Yes,
please
sir.
make yourself visible?
Yes, sir.
Right. So that is number one, because then I draw a lot of support when you nod that yes, sir, it's going well. So number one, is it understood? Now, secondly, let me tell you that the lady in our country, apart from this posh act, there are two other sections of the erstwhile Indian Penal Code, right, which is now the BNS. The sections might have changed. If somebody wants to note down, they can note down section 354 and section 509 of the Indian Penal Code. These sections were there last 50 years, even much before the POSH Act came into being. And they deal with the assault to women's modesty. Even today, the POSH Act says that if you feel that you have been sexually harassed, not only can you go and complain to your internal committee, but simultaneously, if you want to pursue, you can file an FIR under these two sections, and the IC of your committee is obliged to help you, to take you to the police station and help you file the complaint, because if there are any hassles in lodging the complaint. So this lady can take that route also. And third, let me tell you that there are this IC formation is only for organizations which have 10 or more than 10 employees. What is the threshold? Any organization, And when I say organization, if I show you the chart, hospitals, stadiums, vocational institutes, educational institutes, farmhouses, nursing homes, service providers, NGOs, all come within the purview of workplace. So, uh, all these organizations, if they are employing 10 or more than 10, now look at is 10 a number? Can you think of an organization where there are less than, an organization which does not even have 10 people? So it gives a very clear indication of the penetration that the government wanted the act to have. It wanted to cover almost all organizations, and it wanted to have a civil route, a civil remedy, because our courts are already loaded with so many cases. So if the company, but so the company must have an IC. I can tell you a case which happened in the state of Madhya Pradesh. This lady was harassed, and 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 this posh act was in force. This person, they did not have an IC, so the court could not penalize more than 50,000 rupees, right, to that particular lady, to fine to the company. However, it granted a compensation of 25 lakhs of rupees. I will put it on the LinkedIn, that particular case details. 25 lakhs of rupees as compensation for the trauma that particular lady had to go through from pillar to post as to where to file the complaint for want of an IC. Because the provision says I cannot penalize you for more than 50,000 rupees. Therefore, the High Court could not penalize the company for more than, it was a diagnostic center, and gave compensation for the trauma that the lady had to go through to the extent of 25 lakhs, which the company had to pay. So the IC formation is a must. Now, supposing the company doesn't form an IC and the HR is not willing to cooperate, where will the lady go? First option is, if the lady is courageous enough, because not many people would like to file an FIR, because then you get into the complications with the police. Because an FIR would mean that you get into complications with the police, and therefore, lot of muscle power, money power, this power, that power would creep in. And the company will also try to mitigate use its pressure, etc., etc. However, you have a very simple, just go to where people where their ICs don't respond properly, or there are no ICs, straight away go to the LC, which is the local complaint committee, which is there in every district, every taluk, every panchayat. There is a nodal officer for that. Say for in a village known as XYZ, which falls within the district of, say, A. The village is about 100 kilometers away from the district headquarters. The district magistrate and the nodal officer, who are under who are the officers under who will take care of the act, they are 100 kilometers away. You think the lady will go all that way to file that complaint? The lady will give it to the local panchayat or the nodal officer or the talukdar or the block development officer, whosoever has been so nominated by the district magistrate, and obtain a receipt with the date and the time. And then I will explain, there is a time-bound manner within which justice will have to be dispensed. If the BDO or the panchayat or any officer so nominated receives the complaint, it is as good as the district magistrate having received the complaint. So she has all these measures known. She can. Dr. Gupta, is it right?
Yes, sir.
I
I
mean,
hope
it's,
the concerned person has got a response.
No, I don't think it's helpless. There are many such cases. There are many such cases, and therefore, you see, in now there is also, in the redressal mechanism, there is a formal mechanism in which the complaint can be handled, and there is an informal mechanism in which the complaint can be handled. And that informal mechanism is where reconciliation can happen between the complainant and the respondent at the consent of the complainant. Now, in the amendment bill, that member of the parliament has proposed do away with this reconciliation process, because it's, time and again it's been badly used. Although in the law it says no money will be exchanged, but you never know what happens. So
Right,
it
sir.
says do away with the reconciliation process. This is one of the amendments which is pending. I wish this happens, so that, if a complaint has been filed, let the law take its own turn. You can't victimize. I mean, if you victimize, of course, I mean, it is a very sad commentary that you don't have an IC, then the HR is not cooperating, then you are victimizing the person. And if she files a complaint, then you, for some reason or the other, you will harass her to resign or force her to resign. So those, then she can go under the writ also. There are remedies available, but then whether a person would like to go to that extent or not is a personal decision that the person will. And of course, I mean, you can very easily go to the press. I mean, you have the fourth media. I mean, they are looking, they are just waiting for such stories
And even, sir, the person can go on social media,
on
like
social media.
the Me Too campaign that happened.
That's right. I mean, I've heard a proverb. The HMT ad that said, "If you have the inclination, we have the time." So there are a lot of people who are looking forward. Breaking news. बस एक ब्रेकिंग न्यूज आएगा, 200 रुपया शेयर प्राइस ढीली हो जाएगी.
So we have one more questions related to this only. Then we can move to the next section of the POSH Act. It says that have noticed many of the senior persons use some unparliamentary words, but not meant specifically to any woman when addressing to a group, specifically in sales team. Is this would be considered as a POS violation?
See, this was a very heroic case. We all saw that, that video, that HDFC bank manager.
Yes.
Yeah, ugly shouting on his subordinates, etc., etc.
Even
So
one recent video of Canara Bank is also
yes,
there.
that will not come under posh, because that does not, that will be whatever misconduct or whatever, but certainly not posh because it is not done with sexual intent, right? And so, I mean, all these things are happening. That is how you build the culture of the organization. Now people will think 10 times going for a particular company. So that will not come. I mean, it's disgraceful. You ask, sometimes we face this. We as trainers are called in to motivate people to bring about cultural change, etc. Not at all places, but at some places we feel that there could be probably some reflection, you know, where injuries are caused both at the micro and the macro level. It's not only at the macro. Sometimes injuries are caused at the micro level also. Demotivation and loss of commitment, interest, so and so forth. So it's a valid question, but so be it. It will not, unfortunately, come within the purview of sexual harassment. You using abusive language. Now your company etiquettes. I mean, if you allow your managers to use abusive language, I don't know what happened to that HDFC manager who was, whose video went viral. We don't know about whether he was sacked or retained, except that an apology had appeared.
Yes, sir.
Or would you
Sir,
say,
there's no any other questions that is coming right now, so we can continue with the other sections, sir.
all right, very good. ठीक है. So we now let us look at the genesis, because whenever we are talking in terms of the mm, POSH Act, there is one term which is very popular, which is Vishakha guidelines. So I must explain to you what is Vishakha guidelines and why. What is the meaning of the word Vishakha, and then why guidelines? Why don't we say Vishakha law and so forth? But prior to that, I have a question which makes me think, and which I would like all of you to think with me together. Right? Can anybody of among the participants tell me how many years since independence it took us to bring this particular act into force? This act came into being in April 2013, and we became independent in the year 1947. So, can anybody write in the chat box, and can Dr. Gupta help me? This is very important because we have to understand why, after so many years, did this act? What was the necessity for bringing in such an act after so many years? How many years, Dr. Gupta?
So it has been long because, as correctly remember in your last training that I attended, so that was the Vishaka guidelines came after that Bhauri Devi case.
See, very, very simple. 47 we became free,
Hmm.
independent. So 53 years वहां जोड़ दो, 13 साल यहाँ जोड़ दो. 66 years later, when I started training on POSH, this question pondered on my mind. 66 years it took you to bring in an act to bring about safety and security to our women folk. So either there was no sexual harassment prior to this, or there were sexual harassment which are not being reported, or there was an adequate law which existed prior to this act which took care of sexual harassment cases, or we were like in a Ram Rajya, no case of sexual harassment at all. Now, unfortunately, none of this is true. There was a law, as I told you before, section 354 and 509 of the Indian Penal Code. And let me here, please allow me to refer you to a case which will highlight why we had to bring in this act. Two cases, in fact, three cases. Number one is the Rupal Dev Bajaj versus the state of Punjab, or versus KPS Gill, the then Director General of Police in Punjab and Haryana. Madam Bajaj was the finance secretary, or the additional finance secretary, in the year 1988. Please remember, 1988. And the chief secretary had invited all the secretaries to a dinner party at his residence, and the DIG of police, Mr. Gill, he was also there. And the story goes on to say that after the party was over, all these women, they were seated in a semicircle in the lawn when Mr. Gill approached Mrs. Bajaj and asked her to come along with him. Started misbehaving, and when Mrs. Bajaj said that Mr. Gill, you are misbehaving, and when Mrs. Bajaj tried to escape, in her own words, she says, this video is available on YouTube. You just type Rupal Dev Bajaj, RUPAL, RUPALDEO, right? Rupal Dev Bajaj, BAJAJ. You will get this video. In her own words, she says that when I tried to escape between two chairs, Mr. Gill patted me on my back. Not on my back, on my bottom. Now, she said people thought it to be absolutely frivolous. They said, क्या तिल का ताड़ बना रही है भाई, क्या हो गया, अगर जरा सा छू दिया तो क्या बात है? And in her own words, she says, but to me it was a loss of self-esteem. And therefore, I searched frantically as to where can I file a complaint. And she says that it was becoming very disgraceful for me because I had to see him every day because they were working at the secretariat. So every day they were meeting in the coffee, at the lunch, or so somewhere in the corridors while going to their respective offices. And she was reminded of that incident. Then she found out that under 354 and 509, she could probably lodge a complaint, which she did. And suffice it to know that her husband was also an IS officer. And as the judiciary goes on, she had first to file in the district court, I mean in the lower court. Then from the lower court, in the lower court she lost it. Then it went to the district court. She lost it there also. Then it went to the Punjab High Court, and Mr. Gill was a very powerful person, you know. And in the High Court also she lost it, and the High Court judge said that she is too sensitive, and on a trivial matter she is making so much of nuisance, etc., etc. But she didn't stop, and then she went to the Supreme Court, and Justice, I think probably Justice Verma was there, and then Justice Verma called in for all the files, and then, and she in her own words says, it took me 17 years, 17 years to get justice. And it was in Supreme Court that Mr. Gill was indicted and given punishment under section 354 509, because then the POSH Act did not exist. But it took us 17 years, to that extent that in that video she says that since Mr. Gill was winning all through, he thought he would also get a victory at the Supreme Court, and he had probably, you know, through using his connections, he had the Delhi band, the Delhi police band, you know, stationed at the outskirts or at the presence of the Supreme Court to, you know, ceremoniously walk out of the court, thinking that he would be he would be freed without charge, etc., etc. But then it was a landmark judgment, Mrs. Bajaj says. But it took 17 years. So that was one thing. 17 years, if a case is taking 17 years under section 354, 509, well, they were all very powerful people. I mean, this side, the couple, IS husband, on the other side, the DIG, right? Common man would not have gone so far. But all said and done, 17 years were lost, and I'm sure a lot of money would have also been spent on advocate fees and this and that. So that was one of the reasons. And then of course, the Supreme Court wanted the government of India to take note of this fact that, look here, 354, 509 will not suffice, and the government should act. But the government kept cool, and nothing happened. Then in 1992, this Bhavri Devi case took place. I'll be a little fast. This also you can go to the YouTube, just type Bhavri Devi, right, versus state of Rajasthan. So there, she was employed by the government of Rajasthan to, to find out ostentatiously the child marriages which were conspicuously happening around, because the government of Rajasthan wanted to stop all these social demerits. And so there was one such child marriage taking place. She cautions the people there. These people are from an upper caste. They don't listen to her. She also cautions her that if they don't listen, she'll report to the magistrate as a part of her duty. She reports to the district magistrate. The marriage is cancelled. The police party arrives, and all that things happen. But next day, in front of her husband, she's raped by 3 people. Out of the 5 people, 3 people rape her, and 2 people tie her husband to a tree in her own fields, and in front of her husband, she is raped. This was something that liberal India could possibly find it very difficult to digest. And since they were very influential people, the police wouldn't take report of it. 52 hours it happened. 52 hours she was not sent for a medical examination, so that the semen may destroy and there would be no medical evidence left. And as it is, the High Court did not take note of it, did not. They went to that extent of saying that you belong to a category where these people of the rich society would not even bother to touch you. What to talk of rape? Then, I mean, she was a Sathin, hardly earning about 500 rupees, the then 500 rupees. So she didn't have the courage to go further. But then we had Justice Bhagwati then, and there was a provision of public interest litigation, popularly known as PIL. So this Vishakha NGO, which is a NGO, stands for non-governmental organization. So these non-government organizations, if you can file in a public interest litigation, public interest would mean that though it may affect you, but it should affect the public at large. Therefore, they say that if the government cannot provide safety to its own women workers, I mean, what the hell is it? And a public interest litigation was filed by an NGO whose name was Vishakha. Vishakha means the branches of the tree. Shakha, Vishakha. And then I think again Justice J.S. Verma was there. He got the files back from the Rajasthan High Court, and he said, no, this is absolutely abuse of power, etc., etc. And he actually defined what is sexual harassment. I mean, whatever is there in the handbook, about 70 to 80% of it goes to the Vishakha guidelines, which was enunciated by uh, by the committee, which was headed by his lordship, Justice J.S. Verma. And and since we cannot make law because the law is to be made by the parliament, but under section 142 of the Supreme Court of the Constitution, if there is an emergency in our country and the Supreme Court fits it deems it fit that it has to pass some kind of a direction, then under section 142A, if I'm not wrong, it can issue guidelines which have the force of law. Therefore, they said that look, till such time you make the law on safety and security and dignity of women at workplace, these are the guidelines that we are providing. And he wanted at least the central government to issue and follow them in ditto in the central public sector units, and also request the state government, because this is a concurrent subject. You can't force the state governments to follow, but these guidelines can be mandated to be followed by the central government. So these guidelines were enunciated in the year 1997. So therefore, they are known as the Vishakha guidelines. So and there was a specific guideline. Justice Verma said there is a special need, immediate need for the parliament to come out with a law. And he said that till such time you are coming out with a law, please at least enforce these guidelines on the organizations, in the organizations on which you have control, and made a request to the private sector also to look forward. Several uh, culturally and organizationally ethical, morally sound organizations in our country suo moto adopted these guidelines, even when they were not mandatory for them. So, but then 3 months, some kind of a discussion took place post 1997. The bill was introduced in the parliament, and then post 3 months, it was put into the fridge, and no one talked about this bill. Then it was 2012, the unfortunate Nirbhaya case, and when the women folk in India and every right-thinking citizen would have lost his or her cool. And luckily for us, 2012, this particular thing had happened, and luckily for us, 2014 were the elections, and the UPA was going through a very bad weather. BJP was, talking about those scams, and with Dr. Manmohan Singh under a coalition government, and so forth. And the women with a lot of night candle, and this time they said nothing doing. You have to make this into a law. You've already post Bhavri Devi 1997 till 2012. We've already spent about 15 years. You've done nothing so far. You are not interested in doing. You're only trying to, you know, play hide and seek with us. So this time either you do it, or you can probably forget the women vote, kind of a thing. So what could not be done in 15 years was done within 15 days. And within 15 days, the bill was passed with a majority in both houses. And on 10th of April 2013, right, it was notified. And I think around December 2013, it came into force. So that is the genesis. Dr. Gupta, any questions so far?
No, sir, we do not have any questions right now.
So that is the genesis. So that is how. Now, what is so special about this act? See, this act, number one, firstly, right, we had no other remedy. 354 and 509, minus 354 and 509, we had no remedy. So we had to go to the police. For the first time, this law gave us what is known as a civil remedy. In our law, we have two sections. One is a criminal, one is a civil. So this is a civil remedy. You don't have to go to the police, right? In the comfort of your own air conditioned chamber, you have an internal committee which is there. About information about the committee is widely circulated in the organization, right? On the company's website, on the she box of the district, displayed with mobile numbers and email IDs of the members, in office canteens, in the shopping complexes, housing complexes, etc., etc., so that if anybody wants to complain, he or she doesn't have to look where to, and the complaints will get solved within a time bound manner. And that time bound manner was within 6 months, the IC will investigate and submit its report. Just compare this 17 years with 6 months. You don't have to go to the police, you don't have to hire a lawyer. All that you have to do is give a written complaint, and there is a time limit that the written complaint must be given within I think within 90 days of the last incident in a series of incident, or the first incident if the lady so decides. I think it is, yeah, within the first 90 days, yes. And these 90 days can be extended by the IC only once and unanimously. All the members must agree. In case the lady is not able to file within 90 days and she makes a request to the IC to extend the period, say for some traumatic reason or physical disability, and the IC feels that yes, the case deserves on humanitarian grounds, then it can at best give an extension of a max of 90 days more, but no more extensions beyond 90 days. Now, in the bill which has been proposed, this 90 days deadline is proposed to be extended to 1 year. They say that please do away with this 90 days and make it 1 year, because sometimes the aggrieved women takes time to think whether she will file or she goes through the trauma and other things. So that is still a debatable point whether 1 year should be there or not. We will see when we cross the bridge. But as of now, the timeline is that within 90 days you have to file a complaint. Once you file a complaint, within 7 days the IC has to start the inquiry. On the eighth day, or even prior to that, they have to give a copy of the complaint to the respondent. The respondent has to reply within 10 days, and then at max they will take 3 months to conduct the inquiry, which would mean a total 189 days. And then they will complete the inquiry and submit a report to the employer, who will implement it within 2 months, which is 120. 2 months is 60 days. So 190 plus 60, 250 days. 250 days, add 20 more days. It comes to about 270 days. So it's about 9 months. 9 months, and the decision is implemented this way or that way. So, and you don't have to run about the police and this was a very, and not you don't even have to go to the courts. The courts are already burdened with so many matter, and therefore the entire onus lies on the employer. to form the IC, to at least, and how the IC will be formed, who will be the chairperson, who will be the members, right? I'll 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 discuss that so that there is no bias, and that it is all done very judiciously, and not hushed. So this is the
So,
way the monitoring is being done. 270 days, and the victim, uh, uh, I mean, the lady, the aggrieved women, gets justice in terms of the implementation, and otherwise, and if it doesn't, then she can report it to the local complaints committee and the district magistrate. Yes, Mr. Gupta.
there is a question by one of the linked user. It says that is it any organization making sure each and every company comes under the POSH Act and enact with IC? And follow up question is that before any
No,
complaint
I'm
comes
so
as
sorry. I
preventive
couldn't hear
measure.
that. I couldn't hear that properly. May you please repeat?
So it says that is it any organization making sure each and every company comes under POSH Act and enact with IC before any complaint comes as preventive measures?
See, this is a very difficult question. I would not know. I mean, I don't know. You can, you can go. I mean, uh, whether the organizations are following it or not, whether they are making an IC or not, it is very difficult for me to comment here. Neither do I have privy to that. I visit at least 200 organizations, and I know all of them have ICs. Right? I visit the top PSUs and the top private sector organizations, and the number is very short. Even a mudi khana, even a hotel, a restaurant, even a training center, even a typist school, even a vocational center. 10 आदमी क्या है यार? 10 is a number. Any organization having 10 or more than 10 must have an IC. Now, whether they have an IC or not, it is very difficult for us to. But then I can
Sir,
tell you that I can just a minute. I can tell you that I can read that uh, directions of the Supreme Court, which was issued in the month of July 25, asking all the chief secretaries of the states to ensure that all companies have the ICs, and their ICs, etc., are listed on the website of the she box, as well as on the company's websites, and follow a compliance report. But what has happened, I don't know. And what was the second question?
sir, it was a follow-up question, I think. So
Yes.
before any complaint comes into the preventive measure, so if I correctly remember, I had an discussion with one of the organization in Delhi that the organization some that was in one of the area. I will not name that area because it should not be mentioned in public forum. So in that area, the police headquarters sent message to almost all the companies there to inform whether they have the IC or they have complied with the POSH policy or not. And then if they have not received the response within 30 days, they were penalized for that. So government by default, I think, is taking action
Yeah.
rigorously.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. But you know how things move, right? Yes. After the recent two judgments, Oranavalli's versus state of Goa. I mean, the state, in that wrestler case, you remember we had a wrestler case on, the Supreme Court in a judgment said it's shameless. Out of 37 federations in the country, even after 17 years of the enactment, 17 of them don't have ICs. 17 of the sports federation in the country don't have ICs. That is the state of affair. So now the Supreme Court has, and therefore it has asked the chief secretaries of all states to gear up, to monitor, and all that. And even they have asked the LCs to monitor. But then, you know, how strong will be the enforcement is something to be seen. However, I'm sure if some cases are there, we will learn more by what happens to our neighbor than rather being proactive. But there are a lot of compliances. I mean, good companies. I still feel 10 is a very small number. The intent of the government was that everywhere should be there, even in a restaurant where you have 10 people. I mean, 10 people working. Even if there is no female working, still you have to have an IC. This was a question asked. Sir, we have all men. Why do we need to have an IC? Are you have all men understood, but tomorrow a female can join. No. The law does nowhere says that 10 female employees working. There's a 10 employees. So if there are 10 or more than 10, you need to form an IC. And there are penal provisions for that. But I don't know whether there is a today before coming to this session, I went through Chat GPT. I just trying to find out the statistics of which some of the states which have, according to the National Commission of Women, the highest cases of, cases reported in the She portal. So some states names have come. I mean, anybody can visit it. I don't want to make it public here. So there are statistics being collected, there are records being maintained, and it goes on the WhatsApp also viral. And the best part of it is that you have access to annual reports. No, Dr. Gupta, today you can access any company's annual report.
Yes, sir. It
And
is
annual report,
available on their
go to
website.
section, I think that's section 254. Just type on it's all in a PDF format. Just search for section 254. And you will get that portion where they're saying number of cases filed. Now you see that in one company, sexual cases, 200 cases filed, out of which 190, more than 90 days, still nothing has been done. So it may not affect you directly, but indirectly it affects you in terms of your reputation, in terms of your your readiness to attract talent, your marketability, choice of your being a good employer, so and so forth, which are all very, very, very important during these VUCA and money times. So now, coming back, let us look at what kind of punishments can the IC give. See, the principle of punishment is the principle of proportionality, which is the punishment should be in proportion to the harm caused. That is the principle of natural justice. So they say if there is not much of harm caused, it can range from 1 to 5, like on a Likert scale. One is, you can give the person warning and release him. Number two could be you can suspend the person for say 2-3 months. You can withhold promotion. You can promote but withhold financial benefits. Now, if the offense is more grave, you can transfer the person, but not transfer symbolically. It is not said in the law, but the spirit of the section is no symbolic transfer, like not transferring to adjacent lane or your adjacent branch office. I mean, transfer should mean real good transfer. You can transfer the person, and if worst to worst happens, you can terminate the person also. And the worst section which is there is all medical expenses which will go on the recovery of the aggrieved women will have to be made good by the person, either from his salary account or his provident fund, and gratuity can also be attached to make good of the expenditures incurred. Should there be any shortfall, even after attaching the provident fund and the gratuity, it will be the duty of the employer to fill in the gap. So these are the kinds of punishments that can happen. Dr. Gupta, can you come onto the screen once?
Yes, sir.
I would like to highlight one case. I wanted Dr. Gupta's presence because when I look at him, you know, it makes me feel I'm talking to somebody. Otherwise, I'm not very familiar with doing courses online. So please forgive me if I've gone wrong somewhere. But this particular case is to be highlighted, and you can search for it. NUJS. This was the vice chancellor of NUJS, National University of Juridical Sciences, a very reputed university. Now this lady filed a complaint, and it was beyond 90 days. She filed a complaint beyond 90 days. So the IC took the complaint and then said that we cannot examine it, such and such. And though it is a case of sexual harassment, because the IC has to accept all cases, examine it, come to its rightful conclusion. Then they have to say whether they can impose the penalty or not. Then they said it's more than 90 days. You will be surprised at the judgment that was passed by the High Court judge. I think it was the High Court judge of, I don't remember, maybe Assam or somewhere. He said for all years to come, this gentleman, this vice chancellor, will have to write on his resume that he was charged with a case of sexual harassment, which the ICC had found him guilty, but he could not be convicted on account of a ritual error because the lady had filed the complaint 90 days later. Now look, if he has to look at the magnanimity of the court, and the court said the wrongdoer can be, we may not punish the wrongdoer on account of technicalities, but the wrongdoing cannot go unpunished. So this gentleman now has to write this particular fact on his resume all the time to come. So such kind of penalties, now the courts have become so proactive, and the courts are absolutely hell-bent on implication of this law, because we've had enough. Enough is enough now. I mean, if we want it, we have to do it. सीधी उंगली से अगर घी नहीं निकलेगा तो टेढ़ी उंगली से निकालना पड़ेगा. Now I would also like to touch upon one more point, which is false complaint. There are two distinctions. One is a false complaint, another is a malicious complaint. Not only false complaint is the lady is filing a complaint not knowing whether this thing will fall within the purview of sexual harassment or not. Malicious complaint is knowing that it is not true. She wants to, harass the boss or some of his male colleague, etc. Like vice versa. तुम मेरे को promote करते हो कि नहीं? If you don't promote me, I will file a case of sexual harassment against you. And if the IC comes to the conclusion that, say, if it is a false complaint, the IC will close the chapter and say out of ignorance the lady did not know that whether this will fall within the purview of sexual harassment or not. But if it is a malicious complaint case, then whatever penalty, the same rules will apply to the female as would apply to the male, keeping the principle of proportionality in mind. So these are the results on account of malicious cases if they are filed against knowingly. I mean, malice is knowing it to be false, but believing it to be true and going ahead with that kind of a particular activity.
Sir,
So
there is one question. I think that is related to who is the employee, the definition of the employee by itself. So
Yeah.
the question says that just in case a CA interns working at client's place for the audit work, is it POS Act applicable?
Yeah, very true. That is very true. See, I will explain it. Not an issue at all. I think so. Your question is absolutely right. You want to know who would be an aggrieved woman. Who would be an aggrieved woman? I will explain it. All that I'm going through is, I'm just trying to show you a picture. Right? If you can see this picture, right, I don't know how clear. This is on page 7. Who would be an aggrieved woman? Now you see it covers everybody. That aggrieved women can be working. That aggrieved women can be visiting a workplace. Supposing there is a company X and there is a lady sales woman from a company Y. This lady sales woman Y visits company X. Is she visiting company X on her own will, just for a picnic? Or she is visiting company X during the course of her employment and arising out of her employment? Since she is employed with that company and that company wanted her to come and promote the sales here, she's on a sales call here. So that kind of a women is also covered here. It says visiting a workplace. And the third kind of women is student. Even students are covered. So now visiting a workplace, उसमें दो कंडीशन होगी, either arising out of or during the course. Let me explain these 2 points first. Arising out of. Say I'm a lady employee and my boss sends me to the market to buy some stationery material. And I go to buy and there something vulgar happens with me. Am I going there? It is arising out of my employment. Since I and my employer are in employer-employee relationship, I am supposed to obey his orders, so I am on the job. Or during the course of employment, say there are 6 friends, they go on a picnic on their own, and there something happens, 3 boys, 3 girls, something happens. Not it cannot be entertained under posh. But supposing it is a company's annual picnic, and all 6 of them are going, and at the company's annual picnic something like this happens. So they are there because they are employees of the company. So it becomes arising during the course of the employment. So that workplace will become a workplace for the, and POSH Act will apply. Say at the call centers, the transport which the company provides to ferry the workers. If you are in a company provided transport which picks you up from the home, say at 10 o'clock or 9:30, 9 p.m. at night, and then drops you back at 6 a.m. in the morning, if it is company provided transport, that car will also come within the purview of the workplace. Now your question, whether an intern, yes, an intern is a student. And there was a very famous case, you can search for it, against Justice A.S. Ganguly. He was the Supreme Court judge, and it's not far off. Just type Justice J.S. Ganguly, POSH Act. There was an intern who complained of sexual harassment against Justice J.S. Ganguly. And then Justice J.S. Ganguly had by then superannuated from the Supreme Court, and he was then the chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, West Bengal. This case was lodged by an intern. It was on the media everywhere, and there was a Supreme Court 3-member judge committee which was formed to investigate this case. And they in their report said, yes, we have found Justice Ganguly guilty. But since Justice Ganguly is now out of the Supreme Court, we cannot do much about it. However, the government of West Bengal took note of it, and Dr. Ganguly had to resign from his post of chairman, National Human Rights Commission. So in a student, apprentice is covered, probationer is covered. Apprentice, probationer, it says, let me read it from the contract work, says student mein aapke apprentice is covered, trainee is covered, intern is covered, and it says by any other name called. You can give the person a different name. You can call him by a different name. It doesn't matter. We will go at and examine the relationship. And when it comes to a working women, she can be a domestic worker. She could be regular worker. She could be a temporary worker. She could be an ad hoc worker. She could be a daily wager. She can be working for remuneration. She can be working voluntarily. She can be working otherwise. She can be employed directly. She can be employed through a contract agency or an agent. She could be a contract worker. She could be a probationer. She could be a trainee. She could be an apprentice, called by any other such name. So please look at the the vastness, right? The intent of the law. Dr. Gupta, is that okay?
Yes,
Could
sir.
you please
That covers the
just
answer.
relate to the person who is he satisfied with the answer, or would you like to probe in further? I would be too
I
happy
hope
to receive
I
sequels.
hope it answers the questions. If there is any comment on LinkedIn, I will get back to you, sir.
Sure, sure, sure. So that nearly brings us now to as I told you, two amendments are there. The government now is hell bent upon enforcing the act. It is time that we start doing it. Get get awareness sessions done, either by qualified trainers, or have your people certified as trainers, and do some internal exercises. The ICC training is a must now. Members of the ICC, because they wouldn't know how to interrogate, how to ask questions, whether they would ask open-ended questions, closed-ended questions, probing questions, leading questions, how to write the minutes, and keep records, final recommendation. Of course, there are websites available where forms, etc., you can download and educate yourself. But no harm in taking the help of experts in this field who can guide you properly, so that no mistakes are done and it doesn't bring ill reputation to a company, which is reputed for all things, but for such, I mean, small compliances.
Sir, as communicated by the director of Inspiring Minds, and as you have also said, that we can have a full 2 days workshop on IC, okay, and it will be certified by Rapid Learning System, so they can practice as an IC member also, okay. So we will update the dates to all members here as soon as we finalize the dates.
Yeah, that is possible, of course. I mean, IC members training is a must, and I'm sure, because I'm sure the government would first probably look into factually whether the IC members have been trained or not, because that's not too much of a compliance, because finding out whether 2,500 or 5,000 or 12,000 workers have been trained or not. And I don't know, somewhere somebody told me that supposing if I have a workforce of say 5,000, I need to cover 10% of my workforce every year. I have not come across any such provision. I don't know about the veracity or the truthfulness. I think awareness sessions to all your employees, including contract workers, my advice to you is that don't make them too lengthy. You don't have to convert them into lawyers. A 3 hours awareness session with key features and some related case studies by way of videos, etc. Most of them are available on YouTube in the local language, etc., which the trainer can explain the niceties. And this handbook can be of immense help to anybody who is venturing to come into this particular training field as a POSH consultant, not as a consultant, as a preliminary POSH trainer. As a consultant, of course, you'll have to dig deep into the case studies and find out the nuances. Because in one of the cases in Kolkata High Court, uh, a particular justice said that this particular act is gender neutral. Even a man can file a case of sexual harassment against a man because the act says person, and person is a pronoun. It doesn't say male, female. However, an appeal to that has gone into the Supreme Court, but that has not been disposed of as of now. So it's open to multiple interpretations because the learned judge felt that the word person does not necessarily mean a woman. If you want to dig deep, you might have to go to YouTube or Chrome and type POSH gender neutral dash Calcutta High Court. Probably it's May 2024 or May 2025 judgment. So, but one thing is for sure that you cannot play with the safety, dignity, and even our women folk would not tolerate anymore. I mean, enough is enough now. So it's good to be well
Sir,
within
we
the bounds
have
of the law.
received one request or question. I am not able to clearly understand that. It says that is it any policy under POSCO Act like IC committee applicable to school etc. I assume my understanding about the POSCO is there is no such committee, but definitely Inspiring Minds is committed towards betterment of the organizations on an all. So we will be organizing POSCO training for school teachers and shortly. And if any school wants to have a POSCO training for their students, they can reach out to Inspiring Minds. Okay, I think the Inspiring Minds team will revert back to it. So accordingly, so and if any college or university wants POSH training for their organizations or their institutions or any organization looking forward for, they can reach to the email ID that is mentioned here. So they can the Inspiring Minds team will reach out to them for any kind of training is required.
But before reaching out to us, make sure that you will be willing to form an IC. Because if we were to go to your colleges and or deliberate, we will bring in the concept of IC. So your people will know that these are the provisions of the Act. Right? And in case you are not willing to go by the provisions of the Act, then please don't invite us. There's no point. But then you will be, creating problems for yourself. Because students will demand formation of an IC as per the Act. And the IC would need that you at least have 5 members. There must be a lady, the senior most lady must be willing to become the chairperson. Then there will be 2 persons. Now you can't remunerate them under the policy. So how do you motivate them to become and take additional responsibilities? Then it says minimum 50% must be lady members. But that means that you even if you want all lady members, they can be there. But normally you won't have because otherwise unnecessary bias will be created. So you'll have male members. Then you need an external member. This external member will make sure that you don't have, as Mr. Dr. Gupta rightly said, if the management puts pressure that just do away with this, or the presence of the external member is mandatory in every meeting, without which the meeting will not have the necessary quorum. Because it is the duty of the external member to make sure that no kind of biases or pressure or the IC members are subjugated to the pressures from the management, which obviously enlightened managements would not do. But you never know. So formation of an IC uh, mass dissemination of information, then maintenance of records, awareness programs for your workers, including contract workers, keeping safe records periodically. It's not that once you have educated them, now it's over. It says the word is regularly. So maybe once you do it for 3 hours, then again after 6 months, you call them up, take them for only half an hour, just changes if any, and brush them up, and one or two recent cases that have taken place, and so forth. We would be willing to engage with all of you, and since ours is a professional organization headed by our director and assisted by Dr. Shal Gupta and our team of trainers, if you can put your trust and confidence in us, we will do a good job as we've been doing for several clients. So if there are no other questions, I would beg to take your leave, but would
Thank you,
like to
sir.
answer more if there are. If there are, if how many people, how many friends are there who are still there on the?
The number is not showing here, sir.
Doesn't
So I'm
matter. Doesn't matter. No
yeah.
problem.
So
Right. So
thank you,
friends,
sir.
if there are
Thank
any
you for
questions,
the
you can.
detailed discussion. I think if there is any question, people who are joined late or who can, the this video will be available, I think, on LinkedIn, so they can put on their questions again. If even if the session is not live, okay, they can put their questions, and I will ask Sajay sir to get the answer, and then accordingly I will ask also the Inspiring Minds team to revert to that. Okay, so being an
Surely that's
advisor
a
to
good.
that, my responsibility is to work as an advisor. Okay, so not to get indulged into their businesses. Okay, so as an advisor, I will just keep on motivating everyone. Okay, and if there is any requirement or anything, you can the email ID has been placed there, so you can check that email. Connect us with on that email ID. The team will get back to you. Okay. And to announce the further thing that we will be coming on Monday, to announce. So we take the privilege of Ajay sir to announce that we will be having Inspiring L&D Minds Awards 2025 starting from Monday. The registration forms and everything will be available on LinkedIn. Okay, so they can join in, notify, and as the rules and regulations, because I'm one of the senior advisor to their Inspiring Minds, I can assure you that there is no registration charges for the award, and also, okay, uh, the entire process is very scrutinized. So they use the AI based assessment system to identify which is the best possible, based on the the form that the person fills in. And also there is a jury that decides whether, and Ajay sir is one of the jury member. I am also there on the jury member team. So you can access that we will be try to identify the top quality L&D professionals from various organizations through this Inspiring L&D Minds. We recently conducted Inspiring HR Minds. We conducted Inspiring Women Minds last month, and following the same principle, we are going to have an Inspiring L&D Minds. And I am proud to say, associate why I am associated with Inspiring Minds is that it provides almost all the things except some training, and that is done by the external members, external committee member, that is paid. So most of the award that is coming up is free. Okay, so unlike the other awards that you have to pay for, that for Inspiring Minds awards you do not need to pay a single penny. Okay, but yes, our process is very, very, very stringent to identify. Thank you, Ajay sir.
Thank you very much to all the participants for having patiently listened to me. And Dr. Gupta, thank you very much for having extended this invitation. And should there be any queries, we would definitely get back to you. That's not a promise, that's a commitment. Thank you very, very much. And have a
Thank you, sir.
nice weekend. Lovely
Thank
weekend
you.
ahead. Thank you.
Bye.